So I had to make a decision, and that was to either run, which I really, honestly, half of me really wanted to do. I'll be honest, I was like, oh my God, swallow me up. This is just, I can't stand this. Or do something, and I decided to do something. There always comes a point in your life, like a turning point, and I've had several, and I want to explain one of them to you. And this is when gosh, a long time ago, almost seems a different lifetime, when I didn't quite know what to do with myself. I mean, we're talking around, I guess, around 2001, 2002, something like that. And basically, I was at a bit of a loss on what to do. Now, if you don't have a plan, other people will have a plan for you. Like, if you don't have a plan in a business, then your boss is likely to say, oh, well, why don't you do this, why don't you do this, right, to suit themselves. So you've got to have a plan. I didn't have one. And I remember a friend of mine saying, look, come along to this meeting, you know, this is startup, etc. And I met kind of this managing director guy, and he saw I was a bit of a loss, and he kind of said, listen, if you do this, you know, you will do really, really well, like make a lot of money. And all I saw was the money signs, you know. So I said, okay. And it was with a startup company which had to do with urinals at the time, right? Or urinals. So it was this little, I mean, I could draw it out for you, but I know a lot about urinals. It's this thing called, which had a sani sleeve that went into the water, so that the uric soil that comes from our pee-pee, right, doesn't go into the urinal and start smelling. It goes into the plastic sani sleeve, which can then be taken out. And there was this biological substance in there which woke up and ate and broke down the uric acid that is in our wee, okay? Way too much information. Anyway, it was great. The product was absolutely fantastic. And so what happened was, I got an opportunity to invest, and I thought, yes, I'm going to make millions, but I didn't have any money. So the MD, the managing director, just said, look, it doesn't matter that you don't have the money. You just got to go out and you've got to ask friends, family, and fools, the 3 Fs. Right? You just ask them, and some will say yes and some will say no. So that's what I did. I just went out, and he said, by the way, I don't care whether you eat or sleep for the next month, I need you to get that money. It was £100,000. That was so much money. I didn't have £100,000. But I went out and did what he said, you know. I just did. I asked people, and some said yes and some said no. And I managed to gather the money. Now comes the point where I am about to write a check. You can see it's a long time ago, right? Writing a check. And the MD says, great, make it out in my name, like his name. And I'm like, okay, but why your name? Like, it's going into the company, right? He goes, yeah, it's going to the company. And I said, well, why am I doing it in your name then? And he said, because I own the company, stupid. And I went, okay, yeah, but it doesn't feel right. Like, shouldn't I be making it? He goes, what do you know? Like, I'm the MD of this company and you're young and you don't know anything. And I thought he was kind of taking it away from me, the opportunity, so I panicked, right? And I went, no, it's fine. And I wrote out the check to him. And I think you know what happened. Basically, he ran away with the money. Now, I don't know whether you ever lost any money, trading, investing, whatever it is that you're doing, in startups or in public markets or anything. It feels pretty bad when you lose money, right? But have you ever lost other people's money? I'm telling you, the feeling is 10 times worse. Like, I couldn't sleep. I mean, the headaches and and they were phoning me and I didn't want to talk to them, and it was just like, oh, and honestly, part of me wanted to just disappear, like run away and say, well, it was nothing to do with me, it was him. But I had to come to the realization that I actually was the one that collected the money, and I actually was the one that wrote out the check to him as opposed to the company. So I had to make a decision, and that was to either run, which I really, honestly, half of me really wanted to do. I'll be honest, I was like, oh my God, swallow me up. This is just, I can't stand this. Or do something, and I decided to do something. So what I did is I talked to the inventor of it, told him what had happened, and he was like, what, you know? So he managed to get back the IP, the intellectual property for this sani sleeve, and we got together and started a real company, got real venture capital in, like really to the tune of 1.2 million. I didn't really know what I was doing at the time, but you know, we did what we could. And then I had to be the salesperson to go out and sell this stuff. And I mean, I don't know, I didn't know anything at the time around urinals or the facility management or the people that were in it. I was like a fish out of water, I have to tell you. But we managed to get certain key sites to accept it, like the House of Parliament, for example, a well-known chain of pubs, and just in a couple of places like Dresdner, Kleinwort, Benson, an investment bank, don't even know whether they exist anymore. Just a couple of key places where we could show people, look where we are. And I'll tell you what, it was amazing, because what happened was, even though we were massively in loss, one of the biggest kind of facility management companies, I think they are, Rent-A-Kill. I don't know whether you've heard of them. Sometimes you can see their, Rent-A-Kill or PHS and whatever. They bought the company for just under £10 million. And honestly, you have no idea how close we were just to run away and just go, and lose everything, to actually deciding, you know what, no, I'm going to fight. I mean, I had to sign some things with this guy that I wouldn't go after him if he gave us the IP, right? So he gave it to us only if I wasn't. There were lots of things that I had to do. I mean, that guy, I tell you, the stuff that I wanted to do to him, to his family, to his family's family, that I didn't even know, like horror story stuff. That's, by the way, when I stopped watching horror films. When all this stuff was going on, I was like, sawing off his brain because he'd taken the money, right? I was like, what? Where do these thoughts come from? I've never watched one horror movie since that time. Not one. By the way, from a business point of view, what we did, which was really quite clever at the time, was we had the kind of the decision makers of one company, like Rent-A-Kill, come in, and while they're in the meeting, their competitors, PHS, sitting outside. So when the door opened and they walked out, they saw each other and they knew each other and they went, "Arr!" And it's not so much that they maybe wanted the product, it's they didn't want the competitor to have the product. So there was like a bidding war and the price went up and up and up, and that's why we sold for just under 10 million. So many learnings. Like, if it really doesn't feel right, just take your time before making the decision. Like, I should have slept on it, I should have asked a few people. I had a fear of loss because he was taking it away from me, so I quickly signed, But was it a mistake in the end? Because in the end it all kind of turned out and I am where I am. See, that's really interesting as well. Is it a mistake or just a big learning? Because you want to make the mistakes early, as soon as possible, as many as possible, so you can learn from it and then be successful later on. You don't want to have one mistake once every 4 years or so. You want to get them all done in the most horrible day or month or year ever, get them out of the way and then have success, right? So it's definitely trust yourself a little bit more if something doesn't feel good. The other thing that I learned was how much money you can make in startups. And ever since that time, I've been investing in startups. Like, I must invest in like 5 startups a year easily. It's just a little passion of mine because I know just how much money can be made in those things. But I have to say though, I came up with 11 criteria before I invest. Things like they have to have skin in the game, they have to be focused on it 100%, not doing it as a side hustle. It needs to be repeat business, valuation. There's certainly 11 criteria. So lots of things came out of that, but also hard work. Just focusing on something. And even though we were losing money, we weren't able to make it successful, but somebody like Rent-A-Kill was able to make it successful because, of course, they have all the different outlets which we don't have, right? So it was easy for them just to take it and put it in everywhere. And funnily enough, to this day, I probably shouldn't be saying this, whenever I go and have a pee in a public toilet, I sometimes see these things, What I used to do before when I saw them, I don't even want to tell you. Like, I used to take them out, like check them and stuff like that. Anyway, I don't do that anymore. I just pee on them nowadays. I wanted to share that with you. Lots and lots of good learnings there, but that was definitely an event that shaped my life today.